Welcome to Rolling Pin Unplugged. We have the honor of meeting a person who is very hard to catch. It's Hyatt Group President, EAME, Peter Fulton. Welcome and thank you for taking time.
Thanks, great to be with you.
EAME, so it means you're basically responsible for all outlets, Europe, Africa, Middle East and Southeast Asia.
Southwest Asia. Very complicated.
We're here because you're in the final stages of launching your newest project, Andaz, in Vienna at the Belvedere. Andaz is already a very successful brand for almost 10 years in the United States. When you came to Europe, you opened in Munich, your first outlet. How do you adapt such a successful brand for the European market?
So it's really interesting you should mention that. Our first Andaz actually opened in London. Okay. In 2007. Mm-hmm. And in the US, we launched with West Hollywood, I think it was in 2008 or 2009. Mm-hmm. And one of the beauties about what we do and how we do it is that none of our hotels are the same. Mm-hmm. So bringing Andaz to Germany, mm-hmm. or to the German-speaking part of Europe has been a great revelation. We're able to, take the product, which stands for, Andaz is a Hindi word for personal style. And it adjusts and amends itself to whichever community we put it in. Mm-hmm. So it's been a lot of learning. Mm-hmm.
But are there some predefined standards all outlets need to fulfill?
There is no predefined outlets that we need to fulfill whatsoever. Every market is vastly different. We really try and tune the food and beverage product and so forth to ensure that it's really anchored in the local community it operates in.
Mm-hmm. Such a huge project like Munich or Vienna, could you just roughly explain from scratch how you start planning phase, concept, and then starting the construction?
Oh, it's really interesting. It can be a long, drawn-out process. We've got projects that can take us 3 years and projects that take us 10. But for example, this particular project was about 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. We saw the initial designs on drawings. Mm-hmm. We had input with regards to the facilities planning, how many restaurants, how many bars, how much meeting space we were going to put in, mm-hmm. and of course the rooms. And once we'd all agreed, along with feasibility studies on the makeup of the hotel, it then gets down into conceptualizing what these outlets are going to be. Mm-hmm. And that is a lot of experience between guys that we employ, our chefs and our F&Bs. We've got the Park Hyatt here in Vienna. It's been operating very successfully for a number of years. We lean on that expertise. We're out in the market looking and learning and trying to work out which way the market's going to go. Mm-hmm. Do an original concept and an interior design style, mm-hmm. and that was done I think 2.5 years ago, and what you're seeing now is that really starting to come to life after interactions with interior designers, kitchen planners, architects, project managers, mm-hmm. and this type of thing. So mm-hmm. things are coming down there, and 15th of April this year we'll start to see life.
When you do such a big investment, when is approximately the point of return when you're calculating with such a big house like this one?
So it's really interesting, right? The ROI, how do you plot the ROI? Once you put the concrete in the ground for something like this, you're here for a good number of years. Yeah. Obviously in Europe, the return on investment is subtly different than, say, it may well be in India or the Middle East. So there's no magic formula to this, but we try and make sure that we are very responsive to banks and owners' needs and generating as much return as we possibly can in the short term. Mm-hmm.
You just mentioned it before. You're responsible for Europe, Africa, Southwest Asia.
Southwest, yeah.
And the Middle East. It's so many complex and different markets. How do you keep track of all the different areas you're responsible for?
So we're very lucky. The organization has had its strength in food and beverage for many, many years. And it's not about me as an individual, it's about the organization. We have a tremendous amount of really talented individuals out there in the individual hotels working away and helping us innovate and drive change. Mm-hmm. And as a region, we've never been as active as we currently are, especially here in Western Europe. We've got a very healthy number of hotels and restaurants coming through the pipeline, and some great professionals working in the hotels, developing the concepts and bringing the ideas to life. And that's really what it's all about.
Since you're someone who always kind of needs to be on track on all the trends, hypes, you kind of, since you concept and plan in the future, let's go a little bit in the past. Let's say the last 20 years of
So long?
hotel. Yeah. What are the main things that changed?
So I use an anomaly. If you go back 20 years, or if you were walking down the high street 20 years ago, I mean, what did you actually look at and what did you see? Where was Starbucks 20 years ago? You know, these things have all changed dramatically. Now we had the big hotels and so were around then, the grand hotels, especially what you see in Western Europe. Lobby lounges, very formal restaurants and bars, and most people wouldn't go into some of these grand hotels. Now, 20 years on, you've got this tremendous relaxation, informalization of society, and people are looking for places where they can relax and chill out and so forth, and maybe be a lot more informal rather than formal. And you see that coming into hotels of all levels throughout the world. It's a great change. I just look at the way furniture, if you look at how furniture was 20 years ago and what was designed then and what's been designed now, and you say, okay, how do you translate that into how people are using spaces and what's going on?
Well, you just mentioned it, especially in design or whatever art you pick, there's always eras that repeat itself. Is it similar with the hotel market that things repeat itself?
So I think yes, to a certain degree. So the fine dining 20 years ago is not quite the same as fine dining now. It's a little bit pared back. Now you do hear of people looking at concepts now that are trying to say, okay, let's go back to what the atmosphere and what it was then, but the food on the plate is going to be different. And you know, years ago you didn't really worry so much about the origin of food. Now it's the origin of food and provenance and all the other bits and pieces which are becoming more and more important. I mean, look at what's happening to our planet and how important that's becoming.
Sustainability.
Oh, incredibly different.
When you look, especially since Munich and Vienna, you launched the Andaz outlets. Many years ago, these were cities, what kind of the benchmark in high-end hotels, very, very big houses. Did the Asian market somehow overtake this position?
So I think overtake is a very interesting word. I don't think they're just totally different experiences. Look at Europe, Western Europe, how important that is as a destination for the Asian population to come and visit. And you go there and you experience one thing, everything is brand new. I mean, once again, we talk about change. Look what has happened in places like Shanghai, Pudong 20 years ago. What was it compared to what it is now? Whereas if you come to Vienna and you walk around Vienna, as I've done this weekend and so forth, and you know, you're surrounded by history. So two totally different. I don't think one's overtaken the other. One complements the other.
It also leads a bit to so-called liquid expectations. You go in a 5-star hotel in Mexico City, you go to Vienna, you kind of expect the same standard.
It's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. How do you work with those?
So personalization is something that we're working very hard on. It's something that people are seeking out more and more because nobody wants everything the same. It's the experience that actually characterizes what goes on. It may not be that great steak or that great salad or whatever else, but it's the whole environment. It's what goes on around you that really sets you apart from somebody else. The younger generation, Generation X, Generation Y, expect something different. They expect to understand what goes on. And it's our job as an industry and so to keep working on that and developing those experiences wherever you are, so that you're able to link in to that local community.
Automation versus individual service. Where do you see the future of high-end hotels?
High-end hotels are going to continue to prosper. We see tremendous growth in travel around the world. We see tremendous growth in people that want these really personal experiences. And there is a great opportunity at all levels, not just the high end, to actually craft something out and make a difference. You see food travel as one of these areas that is growing exponentially, and one of the huge reasons why people do travel. They want to go and they want to try what is the best of that particular country, community, and whatever. So there's that personalization is going to come into that. High-end hotels are going to continue to grasp that. Food is going to become a more and more important part of why and how we entice people to travel and to return.
Every hotel somehow on the bottom line lives and dies with its employees. When you're such a big group, how do you develop your employees like this, let's say, DNA of Hyatt?
So it's a subject that's very close to my heart. I think we as an industry over time have not done a great job at actually making the industry attractive to young people, where we've got a reputation of being very, very hard, and you want to succeed, you really have to work long hours. And we want to hire people with personality. We want people that are able to come to work, enjoy what they're doing, and really thrive. And recently we've launched an initiative called High Rise, where we've said we're going to hire 10,000 people by 2025 from underprivileged and get them into employment. We alone, we've given jobs to about 10,000, just over 10,000 people in the last couple of years. Every time we open something like this, it's the community that we have to work with and give opportunities and careers and so forth to people.
What are future plans? Something you're allowed to reveal?
No, we never talk about the future, right? As I said earlier today, every time we put concrete in the ground, we're in that place at least 20 or 30 years. So it's a marathon, and we'll be continuing to grow our footprint in Western Europe. And we've got a good number of projects coming along. This year is a very busy year for us. We've got some exciting additions coming along. One opening later this year in London, which we think will be a wonderful addition to the portfolio. We've got a couple happening in France, and the German-speaking part of the world is not far behind.
Is patience your most important virtue?
All things take time, and time is a wonderful healer. So one has to be patient. There is no fast-track way of getting anything done. Everything requires tweaks over time and adjustment to what you thought 3 years ago may not quite be what you think it is now, and we have to take a step back and look at it, evaluate, and adjust.
Yeah. Mr. Fulton, thank you very much for taking your time.
Pleasure.
See you next time.
Thank you.